Welcome back to the episode of Investing Portfolio Update 4. So this is the last video, update 3, and now we're gonna update my new portfolio. Currently, I have 84, almost 85k. Let's freaking go. Just one day, November 1st, 2 days ago, I'm up 900 bucks. I almost hit 85k. So it's been almost a month. When did October 4th. Yeah, so a month, exactly a month, we gain a lot. 15,000, like, it's a lot of money. Wait, 78? Where's 78 at? Around here. So, gain a lot, 6,000. Yeah, around 6,000. Okay, Nvidia, I'm up 10%. 2,000. 11% for Tesla. Apple, 3%. This is the total gain. Palantir, 43%. Broadcom, 6%. Amazon, almost 3%. Oracle, 24%. SoFi, 20%. Microsoft, I'm still down in Microsoft. Like, this Microsoft, man. Down 8, almost 9%. My ETF, large cap ETF, SCSG, 2%. Or no, 1%. AMD, minus 7%. Meta platform, minus 3%. Serve Robotic, minus 15%. Google, 4% up. So I have Joby, 9% down. My QQM ETF, plus 0.54%. Archer Aviation, almost down 1%. Intel, 22% up. Vertiv Holdings, almost 1%. CrowdStrike, almost down 1%. Vistra Corp, down 1.39%. Big Bear AI, 10% down. Cake, 15%. And then SPY, 2% down. So that's my investment portfolio. Visualize, I have a lot of Nvidia. Okay, this is day change, but a lot of Nvidia, Tesla, Apple. This 4 is like bigger. 4,000, yeah. Almost 4,000 here. This is like 3,000, 3,000, 3,000. And there is a 1,000. And this one is like less than 1,000. So, yeah, I gain a lot. 78,000. Yeah, so 6,000 up from last month. Let's freaking go. Like, see, it says here 6,800 gain from last month. Okay,
Good news for Nvidia stock
let's watch this.
investors as Nvidia is expected to join the Dow Jones Industrial Average, replacing Intel, which is going to be, especially in the short term, very, very good for Nvidia stock investors and maybe not that well for Intel investors. So in today's episode, what I want to do is take a closer look at the overview of what's happening, when is the change going to implement, then kind of understand a little bit more of how these changes happen and what it means for both these stocks in forms of the long term and short term. So let's get started with today's episode. But before we go anywhere, make sure to hit the thumbs up, make sure to hit the subscribe button, check out the pinned comment for special offers at fool.com/Jose. And if you're curious about semiconductor earnings, check out my ebook coupon code below.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right, so the announcement came out after the market closed on Friday. So Nvidia is up roughly 2.9% on this news, and I want to say in the short term there is a lot of great positive things for Nvidia stock investors. I want to say for long-term investors, things like this don't really mean much in my opinion, right? If you're looking at a multi-year investment, I don't think this is something that should be like, hey, look, I'm going to be a long-term investor for Nvidia now because it's joining the Dow Jones. I'm going to say the same for Intel. I'm not going to say I would be more bearish because of this in the long term of things. In the short term, yes, I do believe it's going to be more bullish for Nvidia, and in the short term, it's going to be more bearish for Intel, and I'll explain in a bit. The other thing that I find pretty funny is a lot of these news are coming out right now while I am in vacation, so my videos are coming out a little bit slower than usual. Normally, I do daily videos, but right now I am enjoying time with my family. So while my little one is taking a nap right now, I'm taking the time to edit and make this video. But coming back, I believe Tuesday, I will go back to my normal schedule. So now, in forms of Intel, is kind of the inverse, right? Intel, right now, after hours, the stock is down roughly 1.8%. So the switch will take place on November 8th. And there were also another company that was going to, Sherwin-Williams is also going to replace Dow Inc. in the index. So there's going to be a few changes, obviously, for NVIDIA and semiconductors. The only one we really want to discuss in today's episode is going to be that change between NVIDIA and Intel. A few things to know for those that are not familiar. The Dow contains 30 components and is weighted by the share price of the individual stock instead of the total market value. And NVIDIA recently, after the stock split, made itself more of a candidate because as we're going to see, most of the stocks are sitting within those $100 price points. And it's important that, hey, look, you don't want to be too overweight. If NVIDIA was before the price split, well, I just had a massive meltdown there. But if it was before the price split, NVIDIA's holdings would have been too high, and the committee would most likely not have accepted this change. And if we look right now at the Dow 30, Intel is actually the cheapest stock here, so it's going to be the one with the lowest valuation. Just taking a closer look, you can see a lot of the stocks are in between price points of 23.2, including Intel, to the highest being United Health Group at 567. So within those low 100 digits is where you see most of the stocks between 150, 200, 300, and the list goes on. So NVIDIA will fit perfectly somewhere in between here, right? It's not going to be too overweight and it's not going to be too underrepresented. Now, let me explain how the process of adding and removing these companies come for the Dow Jones. Usually the decision-making process is managed by a committee at the S&P Dow Jones indexes. There's no fixed schedule for changes, unlike regular index rebalancing. Changes are made on an as-needed basis, and announcements are typically made several days before the changes. Like we saw, these changes are going to take place on November. Now, in forms of removing a stock, normally it has to be a company that's undergoing major restructuring merger, and this is something Intel's doing, right? It doesn't know if it's pushing more into that foundry business. It's making big changes into the foundry business, so there's a lot of restructuring happening within that business. Significant decline in importance to the economy, right? Intel's no longer the chip maker it was before, and it's not necessarily one that's kind of showing us what the semiconductor market is representing. So it makes sense that Intel is being removed. Financial distress or bankruptcy. Intel, like I mentioned, because of those huge movements in restructuring to more manufacturing dependent, is spending a lot of money in investing in that aspect. So it's definitely seeing financial distress, as the company has also thought about selling certain parts of its business, as is laying off employees, as is halting some plans. Now the stock price has become too low, like I mentioned, since this index is very price weighted. Now, for the addition criteria, it's pretty much the opposite, right? Strong reputation and substantial record growth. And NVIDIA, thanks to the AI market, is seeing both. It has such a strong reputation. Everybody, even if you don't own NVIDIA, you know about NVIDIA. It generates significant interest from investors. Obviously, you can see from the NVIDIA videos out there that this is getting a lot of interest right now. financial viability because of the company's huge growth in the AI space. It's growing its revenue at record levels. It has super amazing free cash flow. It has a strong balance sheet as well. And it's a strong representation of where maybe the semiconductor and AI market is headed. We also need to have kind of an adequate stock price. And like we mentioned earlier on, the stock is sitting around those 100 levels where it's a lot of the other companies in the Dow 30. Now, the implementation process is pretty simple. There is a public announcement made in advance. As we saw, the actual change is going to happen in early November. The index fund begins preparation for rebalancing, and trading occurs at market close on implementation date. The new company starts trading as part of the index the next day. So there are going to be a lot of market impact, in my opinion, for the short term for both NVIDIA and Intel, right? Because outgoing companies like Intel are going to see a lot of selling pressure as the Dow Jones rebalances, and any ETF or any type of mutual fund that follows the Dow Jones is also going to do that type of selling. So there's going to be a huge volume of stocks of Intel's seeing a selling price. So that should definitely cause the stock price to go down in the short term. When I talk about short term, these selling pressures can last maybe a few days, a few weeks, maybe even a month or so. So in the short term, you're definitely going to see a bearish sentiment, not only from these index funds themselves, right? Investors right now understand that this selling pressure could happen, so they might start selling off ahead of time as well, creating even more selling pressure as well. Now, for the incoming company like NVIDIA, they typically increase in buying, right? You're going to see that rebalancing. All those ETFs are going to be buying NVIDIA up. So you're going to see the inverse of that. You're going to see maybe the stock price see a nice bullish trend in the short term of things. You're going to see investors wanting to buy the stock right now as they believe in the next few weeks the stock is going to see a nice increase in stock price as well, because index funds most sell old shares and buy new ones, and the trading volume usually spikes around the change dates. So people try to get ahead of this in the trading in the short term. Now, obviously, as NVIDIA investors, you're going to get happy with any bullish news like this. But as a long term, this isn't anything that's going to change the company in forms of, it's not going to make NVIDIA a better company. It's not going to make Intel a worse company. So as long-term investor, this is going to seem just like noise. So for me, as a very, very long-term NVIDIA investor, I'm going to be happy to see how my portfolio acts within the next few weeks, hopefully. But in the long term, this is not a reason that I have on my checklist. This is why I added or have NVIDIA in my portfolio. Now, that's all I have here for NVIDIA and Intel. Like I mentioned, I am on vacation right now, and I'm pretty sure we might get some even bigger news while I'm on vacation still. But I'll try my best to come up with all the videos as soon as possible. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.
Upsie, upsie. Okay, so that's update of my portfolio, and I'll see you guys in the next update. Maybe it's gonna be December. Yeah, December 3, December 4. Let's see how much we're gonna gain or maybe lose some money. Who knows? Election's gonna come up. U.S. election is soon, next week maybe. This week, I don't know where is the election, but it's gonna be this week or next week, and it's gonna be volatile, and I'm sure it's gonna drop money maybe. Plus we have interest cuts, and yeah. I'll see you guys in the next update.